All right, let's dive right into this. Welcome to today's explainer, where we're going to unpack the ultimate survival guide to daily life in Quebec. If you've ever stepped off a plane in Montreal or Quebec City armed with nothing but your high school French, well, you probably realized super quickly that the French spoken on the streets here, it's a completely different, vibrant, and, let's be honest, sometimes totally baffling beast compared to standard European French. Today, we're really focusing on how Quebec French differs daily, how this unique vocabulary actually shapes everyday life. And make sure you stick around because later on, I'm going to share a genuinely brilliant iPhone screen reader hack that'll actually help you practice it. But to get us started, I have a question for you. What on earth does lâche pas la patate mean? Literally, this translates to don't let go of the potato. Sounds bizarre, right? But what's so cool here is that this phrase perfectly captures the whole spirit of Quebec slang. It actually means hold on or don't give up. It's just a wonderful, quirky idiom that perfectly sets the fun, curious tone for our journey today. So if you're trying to learn Quebec French, definitely do not let go of the potato. Okay, here's our roadmap. We'll start with welcome to Quebec, then dining and getting around. Next, we hit the streets for rapid-fire slang, followed by weather and work. Finally, we'll unveil that voiceover tech hack for your phone and wrap the whole thing up with sounding like a local.
So, Section 1, Welcome to Quebec.
When you wake up and head out for the day, your very first interactions are going to immediately diverge from that textbook French you learned. The differences start right at hello and thank you. Think about it. If you hold the door for someone and they say merci, standard European French dictates you reply with de rien, which literally translates to of nothing. But in Quebec, you're going to hear bienvenue. Yep, the word for welcome. Because Quebec is surrounded by English-speaking provinces and shares this massive border with the US, the English phrase you're welcome directly influenced their French. So the key takeaway here is that bienvenue isn't just a greeting at the door. It is your everyday, polite response to thank you. Moving on to Section 2, dining and getting around. Once you're out the door, you've got to navigate the city. In standard French, a car is a voiture. But in Quebec, it is un char. Historically, a char was a chariot, but over time in Quebec, the word evolved to mean the automobile. So, if someone asks where you parked your char, don't start looking around for horses, okay? They're literally just asking about your sedan. Now, walking the streets, you will absolutely come across a dépanneur, or as the locals lovingly abbreviate it, the DEP. This is way more than just a linguistic swap for a convenience store. The DEP is an absolute cultural staple. It's the neighborhood hub where you run to grab a quick snack, your daily essentials, or a cold beer, which is often called une frette. The word actually comes from the verb dépanner, meaning to help out of a tight spot. And honestly, that's exactly what the DEP does. Hey, speaking of food, we absolutely cannot ignore the national dish. Behold, the glorious equation of la poutine. Listen, it is not just fries and cheese. The absolute defining ingredient, the thing that makes or breaks a real poutine, is the fromage en grains. Those are fresh cheese curds. And the true test of authenticity? Those curds have to squeak against your teeth when you eat them. I'm serious, if there's no squeak, you are not experiencing true Quebec poutine. Let's hit Section 3. Slang for the streets. If you eavesdrop on a casual conversation in Montreal, you're going to hear certain filler words constantly. They are literally the glue holding Quebec sentences together. Let's run through them really quick. C'est le fun is a great example of English blending in. It just means it's fun. On the flip side, if something is boring or a total bummer, it's c'est plate. Tissé is a super rapid-fire contraction of tu sais, meaning you know, and it's used as a constant verbal crutch, kind of like how we use like or you know in English. Féqué is your go-to transition, meaning so or therefore. And my absolute personal favorite is pantoute. It's a hypercharged version of not at all. If you absolutely didn't do something, you didn't do it pantoute. Another thing that constantly trips up newcomers is how locals talk about relationships. A boyfriend or a close male buddy is your chum, which is, again, a clear nod to English. But what about a girlfriend? She is une blonde. Now, what's really fascinating here is that she's called a blonde regardless of her actual hair color. She could have jet black hair, and she is still your blonde. All right, Section 4, weather and work. Winter in Quebec is no joke. Standard French uses the word froid for cold. But when the wind is howling and it's 20 degrees below zero outside, froid simply doesn't cut it. Locals say, il fait fret. Fret is a whole new level of bone-chilling, unforgiving cold. When it's fret, you better be wearing your toque, your winter hat, and your heavy snow boots. Before you even enter the workforce in Quebec, you're likely going to go through this institution, the Cégep. This is a uniquely Quebecois educational system that sits right between high school and university. It's a mandatory bridge for students, and it offers both pre-university programs and technical vocational training. It's a word you're going to hear constantly when people talk about their career paths or, their kids. And speaking of the workplace, we have to talk about office vocabulary. While folks in France will often just adopt the English word email for their digital messages, Quebec takes the protection of the French language very, very seriously. In the office, they insist on the term courriel. It's a brilliant portmanteau of courrier, meaning mail, and électronique. It's just a prime example of how Quebec actively creates French equivalents for modern tech terms. Which brings us to Section 5, the voiceover tech hack. So, here is a massive modern challenge. Let's solve the tech mystery. If you create a study list of all this Quebec vocabulary on your phone, the iPhone's voiceover feature will completely butcher it. Because words like pharmacy or correct look so similar to their English counterparts, the iOS algorithm just gets utterly confused. It defaults to an English pronunciation, which completely ruins your attempts to study the proper French accent. But our source material uncovered a phenomenal hack to fix this. Check this out. If you just type pharmacy, the phone reads it in English. But if you add the pure French word ici, which means here, right after it, it acts as a linguistic anchor. It forces the iPhone's engine to immediately switch to French. Furthermore, if you just have a list, the AI reads it like a machine gun. By adding ellipses, those 3 little dots at the end, you force the software to take a natural 1-second pause. So instead of a garbled English mess, you hear perfectly paced, beautiful French. Pharmacie ici, l'autobus ici. Seriously, it is a total game changer for focused language learners. Finally, Section 6, sounding like a local. Quebec French has some really wonderful phonetic nuances. Take the word correct, which locals use constantly to mean okay or fine. You actually drop the hard T at the end. It's pronounced correct. For blonde, you have to lean into the nasal sound, but ensure you hit a soft D at the very end. Blonde. And then there's the most important one to get right, poutine. In Quebec French, when a T is followed by an I, it creates the subtle ts sound. So you don't say poutine, you say poutine. Master that little ts sound, and I guarantee you'll instantly earn the respect of the locals. So we've covered the greetings, the street slang, surviving the weather, and even hacked our iPhones. But mastering these daily differences isn't just about sounding right, is it? It's really about connecting with a culture that fiercely protects its unique identity. So the only question left for you is, are you ready to take your new vocabulary out into the wild and test your Quebec accent at the local dépanneur? Because if you are, go order a poutine, grabbing fret, and whatever you do, lâche pas la patate. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and I'll catch you next time.